Ben. I'm a digital sculpting boy. I make 3D models, high resolution 3D models, in fact. Not everybody knows what that means. It's hard to explain. So
yeah, it's very magically mojo-y.
Yeah, it's sorcery of some kind.
Yeah, I'm still sure of it. I'm Daryl. I'm a traditional sculptor, ceramic sculptor. Ceramics is my thing. I create both pottery, functional vessels, and I also do some sculptures, some more traditional stuff that you'd expect to see with figures, sometimes with animals, just whatever I'm feeling, whatever I'm trying to say.
So we've decided that for every episode, we're going to start each one by giving a little bit of an art prompt. Since we just had Halloween or something, you could say like a Halloween word, and I could say an animal or something like that at the same time, and that's the art prompt. Okay? So let's try that. You say a Halloween word.
All right, let me think.
And let me think of a really... Okay, I got my animal.
Okay.
But my animal's probably a little easier to do than your Halloween word.
Yeah, Halloween word.
Yeah.
Does it have to be directly related to Halloween, or...
I mean...
just like things you get during Halloween?
It could be that, or it could be like Halloween themed, or... a skeleton could be Halloween.
Okay.
Okay, just a spooky word then, maybe.
A spooky word.
Yeah.
Spooky word.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good.
All right, on the count of 3.
On the count of 3.
Right. 1, 2, 3, alligator.
Candy corn.
A candy corn alligator. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that's a good art prompt. All right, so draw it, sculpt it, paint it, poop it.
3D print it.
Yeah.
Send it to us.
Send it to us. Right. Send us your candy corn alligators. Tweet them to us.
We own all rights to candy corn alligators.
At theinternet.com.
At therealinternet.com,
Yes.
not the fake news internet.
We're going to start off here, I think, by talking about an idea that I had. And then as things naturally go with conversation and with the way my brain works, we'll probably be talking about, like, Power Rangers and My Little Pony by 30 minutes in.
Yeah,
So.
I give us a good 7.5 minutes of art talk, and then the long
talk about Patrick Rothfuss and his third book.
Which is never going to happen. I've accepted
which
it's never going to
will
happen.
eventually come out soon. I believe his quote is always, "It will come out soon."
Yeah, I think soon is a...
It's kind of what parents say to the kids in the back of the car.
Yeah,
like,
exactly, yeah.
When will we be to Florida? Like, you just pulled out of your house in Chicago. And
in Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska. Soon, children.
Yeah. Literally 24 hours.
of straight driving. Yeah, and then convert that to...
Metric.
To decades.
To metric. Yeah, metric decades.
Yeah, metric decades. And that's when we'll see the third book.
So the question that I hypothesized was, is art necessary? And when I say necessary, I mean, I think you could probably take that a lot of different ways. I don't know, what was your kind of immediate reaction or thought process?
My immediate reaction to that question always is not necessarily a thought, but just a gut feeling of, oh God, I sure hope so, because I've dedicated my life to this. Which I think it's a question a lot of artists ask themselves, which is, it relates to another question, which is, what the fuck am I doing with my life? And is any of this worth it? And does anybody care? And does anybody really pay attention to any of this? And how much do I even pay attention to any of this? And how much do I care about what's going on in the contemporary art world?
You hope so.
I hope so.
You hope that necessary. Art is necessary. Well, we're going to get to the bottom of this.
We're going to get to the bottom of it. No research.
We're going to find out. Yeah, no research, no Wikipedia articles.
Yeah, no.
Is art necessary? So for me, until I started getting into art pretty late in my life. So for me, before that, art wasn't necessary. I always thought of it as like, oh, they're an artist. Like that doesn't like contribute to society. That doesn't really do much. And I still have a lot of friends that think that way, and I know a lot of people do think that way. But now, kind of me being, in that field, it kind of has changed my perspective to where I don't know, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I hope that it's necessary, and I'm still not sure if it is. in a way, because necessary is like necessary to what? Necessary towards, I don't know,
Societal
our
change,
race,
yeah.
Societal change. I'll say yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Cultural importance or heritage or...
I mean, yeah, our art is our culture in a sense, in a little bit of a way. Our story, our traditions.
I think 2 parameters need to be loosely defined, which is, first, what is art? What would you consider art to be?
Good thing we already did that.
We did talk about
the first recording, which went right in the garbage can.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I still have it on my computer. Maybe I'll refresh that from the recycle bin. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's in the virtual garbage can. We can still restore it. But yeah, and we did talk about that. And I think we decided that art can be a very loose thing. I think one thing that you said was like anything done with a determination, like a specific amount of time and like consideration, could be considered art.
I think, I said with intent.
Yeah.
Yeah, was my specific word.
Yeah, and I think
like
that's...
you intended to create something.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good definition for art. And I think it has to be loose, and I think it has to be a little vague, because people challenge the idea of what art is all the time. I mean, just historically, it's been something that very famous artists, I think the most popular and most recognizable one would be like Duchamp, challenge what art is, if anything could be art. And then you look at other things, other mediums away from the traditional things like movies, films, talking about books, literature. You're talking about your car that you drive or the phone that you have in your pocket. All of these things have some artistic intention to sort of draw, especially in capitalistic markets, to draw your attention to it. And then the other parameter that needs to be defined is what do you mean by necessary? And necessary in what way? Obviously, we can live a life without art.
Right.
But it's also very obvious, or even, let me just break it down, let me just change the word, aesthetic values are naturally ingrained to what humans gravitate towards. A lot of people don't want to buy a Pontiac Aztek because it's the ugliest goddamn car in the world. But a lot of people love Porsches. And the question of when the line goes from when does your Ford Taurus, which is very much a car, and it has some aesthetic value, but not very much, compared to a Bugatti or a Lotus, for instance. Lotuses are beautiful cars. What is one of the main differences between those two cars? I would say the aesthetic function of the car itself. The car is beautiful, and that in itself gives it more value than another car. They could have the same engines, same everything, function exactly the same, but the Lotus would still go for a lot more money simply because of how it looks.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people, I'm not personally, and it's weird because I am in the art field, but I'm a complete minimalist by nature. Like, if you look around at my office, I think you kind of can see that. I don't really have a ton of stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't have any art on my walls anywhere.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
I am a minimalist to the maximum degree, or at least every wallpaper on my phone ever has been either a solid color or like some kind of polygonal. Let's see, red and black and yellow. So I don't know. I'm a minimalist, so I can't really vouch for someone who says like, oh, I want to drive this specific car because it looks great. Because for me personally, if you gave me a cardboard box and it was sturdy enough with some wheels on it and it worked, and it worked, I'd drive that cardboard box until that cardboard box got wet and didn't work anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, it's really interesting that you say that, because I am the same way in the sense that, like, in my studio, other people decorate their studios space, obviously. Like, people just decorate their spaces to fill, like, a nice aesthetic, like what makes them happy or whatever, for whatever reason. I'm the same way. Like, my walls in my studio are just bare.
Are you saying that nothing makes me happy?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, like, I'm just agreeing with you. I have the same sort of nature where it's like, I don't decorate things. I'm minimalistic in the sense, too, where I'm like, oh, I want to put up this tapestry or this artwork or whatever. I have a sculpture in my house that I bought from a friend of mine who is an artist, and it's still sitting I think it's sitting in the basement right now because we had some guests. It was in the guest room, but it's a wall sculpture. I still haven't even hung it, and I love it. I love looking at it, but just something I don't know why. It's just the weirdest thing that like I don't.
So Daryl can see this. What I'm holding in my hands, and it's a sculpture. It's a bust.
Yeah.
I think I've shown this to you before.
And it's your mother, right?
Huh?
It's your mom, right?
This is my mom. It's like this humanoid bat creature. It's actually very masculine.
Yeah,
yes, it is my mother. No, this is a sculpture by Eris Colacantes. I believe I'm saying that correctly. Maybe not. Probably not. But it's like literally one of the only things that I bought purely for its aesthetic. It doesn't serve like any purpose to me other than looking amazing on my desk or just like keeping it around me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then I have like some other sculpts over here that are from I believe 3D Total, and they're just a male and female anatomy figure, but obviously they serve the purpose of being anatomical references for me.
Yeah.
Whereas like this is just
Awesome.
an awesome sculpt that I really enjoy. So it's tough for me to even now like you said, we had to define the terms, and I think you did a fairly good job of that. And when I say like is art necessary, I mean you can kind of reword that to like is it needed or anything like that. And you have to ask like needed for what or necessary for what. And you know like humans have a lot of needs outside of like food and water and like sleep.
Yeah, the pyramid. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
It's like 5 levels of needs that build on each other.
Is sleep one of them?
I believe so. I think like security is one of them.
Security?
I know that it's like at the bottom. It's like your basic needs, like food,
water,
like,
Pokemon games. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
My blue eyes.
Yeah. I think shelter is one of them, and then it's like a feeling of safety, and then like love and sex. And basically what the pyramid says, it's like a general rule, like you need the bottom one before you can have the second one, before you can have the third one, before you can have the fourth one. I think it's like a yeah, I've seen it in psychology.
I think I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's not like a solve all thing. It's just more of a reference. But I think when you ask is art needed, I think you can make a very strong case for it in the sense that if you look at how old or how far back can you go and still find artwork, right? Is art a product of advancements in a society? So is it a luxury in which when people have excess and then they create art, or is it something that they create out of even when they don't have a lot? So they still use and create artwork, even if it's to fill a functional purpose, but not strictly just functional. So like I'm thinking of like Native Americans make a lot of pottery, traditional pottery making, and they decorated those with like very lavish decorations, which took a lot of time, and they put corn in them. You know what I mean? Like that didn't really. The purpose was very like, oh, we'll just store stuff in here. There's no reason to make it look that beautiful. You can go further back to cave paintings. There seems to be this necessity for human, just in our nature, to create something which would be defined as art.
Well, Daryl, I have some news for you. I cheated. I Googled. I found your pyramid.
Oh, yeah?
So at the bottom of the pyramid, under basic, is psychological needs. So some examples. Breathing.
Yeah.
I consider that fairly necessary.
Yeah, sometimes.
At least half the time. Food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep are all basic. And then safety and security above that. Health, job, property, family. Social stability. That's a little bit of a wobbly one. Psychological needs above that, love and belonging, self-esteem, and then at the very top of the pyramid is self-fulfillment, which is morality, creativity, spontaneity, experience purpose, meaning, and inner potential. So I think that would maybe fall under, art and...
Yeah, creativity goes hand in hand with art. It's interesting. It's on the top of the pyramid, so it is.
It's the most important one at the top, right?
really?
Isn't that what that means?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or if you look at it the other way, it is the one that can go first.
Right.
The one that you
Well,
can
it's
chop
the
off the
highest.
top.
Well, you're right. It's the highest one,
Mhm.
and the way I look at things, since I'm taller than most people, is that the higher up, the better.
The more important.
That's why we build our very tall buildings.
Yeah.
So we can feel bigger than everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So artists are actually at the top of the pyramid, and just saying top of the pyramid now kind of makes me feel a little bit better about myself.
Yeah, same here. It is interesting that pyramid. It said like creativity, but it also put in the same category fulfillment, which I think is something especially like in today's day and age, where like we have constant connection with millions of people. There's billions of people on the planet, and it's easy to be like, I'm just one in 7.5 billion people. Like, and then like you look at your heroes and your the people you look up to, and you're like, I'll never be one of them. I actually asked my professor this question the other day. I said, for one, and I asked him in the context of being a professor, but I very specifically said this could be applied to any context. I said, for every one of you, meaning you as a professor, you as someone who has this job, his tenure track, all that stuff. No, he is tenured.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So he said.
Yeah, exactly. There's probably 1 million people standing behind you. And by what I mean by standing behind you, I mean they wanted to get the same thing, be at the same point where you are, but they failed for whatever reason. And I asked him, I was like, what is any advice you can give to becoming the one in the 1 million people that try this thing? And he gave me his advice, his 2 cents. And it was a little helpful. It was helpful in the sense that it guided me towards an answer, which I think is, to answer that question, it's really a personal answer, more than like, here are the strict guidelines. But
my answer is always be lucky.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, yeah.
Also, I'll comment real quick before you go for it. 1 million does sound like a lot. I think the world's a lot smaller than you think, and I don't think there's 1 million people standing beside him that didn't quite get there.
You don't think so?
No,
I meant not
I
like
don't.
today, but I mean like in the history.
Yeah, no, okay.
Yeah, I meant
I can
like
roll with that.
Eternally.
I can roll with that.
But yeah, in the history of, let's say, college professors, for every one person that got the job, there's probably 1 million people that applied and didn't.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah, and it's just, self-fulfillment is so interesting because, like, I went to be an artist because I really love and enjoy making artwork, and I thought, well, I just want to give it a shot. Like, if you can fail at doing something you don't want to do, which you can. Like, you can, man, I just really need to support my family, I need to get this job, and you can fail at doing that. Then you might as well fail at trying to do something that you really love. And I'm not saying I failed or anything. I'm just saying, like...
Not yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting when you get into the situation when you, like, chase your dreams, and then I think, this is my 5th year really devoting myself to art. There comes a point in time when you ask yourself, like, did I really want to do this? Yeah. Is this really worth it?
Right.
And am I being fulfilled like I thought I would be? And I think it's important to ask yourself that. And I think almost always you'll answer the question with somewhat and somewhat not. And I think that's the nature of anything.
Yeah, I mean, if you're 100% in, then keep doing whatever the heck you're doing.
Yeah.
But I know, like, on any given day, I'm never like, oh yeah, this is like the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. Everything's going so perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that kind of weeds out the weak. That's how you get really good artists and people that aren't meant to be artists or aren't necessarily going to make the cut in the community or in the world or whatever they're trying to do, because it's a lot of like uncertainty. It's a lot of my professor, an advanced professor, he always says, as a student, you need to be comfortable. He said it's your job to be comfortable with uncertainty. And what he meant by that was you have to question everything that you do, why you do it, down to every last decision you make, including what are you making and what are you making it out of, and why are you even making it out of that? Could you make it out of this or that? Like every single question. And he was like, that's your job as a student to learn. And he's like, but you have to be uncertain, and you have to learn how to be comfortable being uncertain and questioning those things so you can learn how to think like an artist.
I really think that's the main reason why art is so difficult is because of the uncertainty. There's an extremely high technical level to all the traditional art forms, drawing, painting, sculpture, etc., and even some new media art forms even. But I think that uncertainty is what gives it that intense difficulty at all times. If you go to school to become something that's like a really difficult long track, let's say lawyer or anyone in the medical profession, those are things that you have to go to school for a very long time for. But at the end of it, you are declared a person in the medical profession, or you are declared a lawyer. Here is your slip of paper that says you are certified to do so, and you can now go out into the world and attempt to do that full time for a living.
Yeah.
You cannot go to school to be an artist and go to school for 4 years or 8 years and then receive a slip of paper that says you are now certified, and now you can go work at any of these studios and apply and be ready to go into it and tackle that. You are now, ready for that.
Yeah.
And school, and that's kind of an argument against, well, is college like supposed to prepare you for that, or I think it can go either way. I think you have some certain responsibility to yourself to.
Oh, definitely.
Right. I mean, college the whole point of college is to teach you how to teach yourself in a way. I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think the most important thing college gives you is the capability to think critically.
Yeah,
and that's all they're trying to instill inside of you. I think is the capability for you to look at a piece of information and discern, whether you believe it or whether it's true, factual, makes sense, doesn't make sense, whether it's helpful, hurtful, whether you want to implement it into your life or not.
Look at it from different points of view.
Exactly,
I think that's what college is very good at, for sure.
Yeah.
Depending on where you went to school.
Yeah, exactly. Not all colleges.
I can't speak for every school in the world.
Yeah.
But my whole point is that, with an art degree, or even if you didn't go to school for art, if it's just, your personal passion, or if it's your hobby or whatever, there's this huge overlooming uncertainty that goes with that of do you have the skill? What are you particularly doing? Are you trying to create products that you can sell? Are you trying to create art that you can sell? And there's just this constant huge uncertainty cloud raining over top of your head.
At all times.
All the time. It's tough.
Yeah, it can be very scary and terrifying and challenging.
And not to say that art is the only field that has this, but I would say most things that kind of deal under that self-esteem pyramid category of creativity definitely kind of have that uncertainty with it.
Definitely. I mean, and I think most things that do deal with that, I think you can make a case that they would, like the same uncertainty, I think you can still make a case for those that they are an art form in some way. Because what you were saying, that other things that deal with that, I was thinking of maybe movie studios or actors or
sports.
Sports, yeah. And all of those things can be considered an art, especially, as maybe not sports, but I think someone somewhere can make the case.
But my point was sports. There's a huge uncertainty with your ability as a player.
Yeah,
in whatever you're attempting to do.
I think what all of those things have in common is that it doesn't go to. Now you've joined this group of people, like say a lawyer.
You're in the club.
You're in the club.
Welcome to the lawyer club, sir.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's how it is, though. It's you're a lawyer. Okay, I need a lawyer. I need lawyer services. It doesn't necessarily matter how good you are, and it does. You can't be the absolute worst lawyer in the world and have a job.
Right. You're never gonna get hired.
Yeah, but you can be a mediocre lawyer, and not have to worry about work forever. And if you're filled with doing that, that's great. But as an artist, or with any profession where it's super uncertain and it depends directly upon your skill or capabilities, it's very much a very personal thing, and there are no guarantees because there are no industries which need mediocre artists, I don't think.
No, no, yes, no. Everybody always wants to hire the best possible artist that they can, depending on you know, a lot of factors like
Yeah.
location and pay and all these things, obviously.
Yeah.
But still, if you show someone, and I that's true for anything, right? If you show someone, oh, I'm hiring at my lawyer firm and we're interviewing 100 people, you're the best one. Obviously, they hired the best one.
Yeah.
As long as everything else lines up. Same with art. You hired the best artist. But art is just such a competitive
Oh yeah.
field. Obviously, it's comparative to these other things. Like I just did a lawyer, but I don't know. Art's maybe I say this because you know I am only an artist and that is all that I do. But you know, before I was an artist, I was doing a lot of web development, specifically like front end web dev and a little bit of design on the side. And getting a job for that, like honestly, the first job I had in that field, I could have studied that stuff for like 3 to 6 months and gotten that job. It was the easiest job I've ever had, and I made just as much money doing that as I did making my first job as a digital sculptor, which was
Years of training.
exponentially higher level of skill where they couldn't just hire any college grad or even a high school level education of a student to be able to perform this work.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, it takes years and years of practice to hone your craft, like we said, it's so competitive. There are so many other people out there that will easily snatch up that job, and the thing is that what you're saying with like, oh, they'll hire him, or like, you know, they'll hire the best out of 1 in 100. The issue is that like they don't have those middle standing jobs, not nearly to the level extent of like other fields. So like there's not a lot of jobs for middle of the road artists. There's not a lot of like, oh, we'll pay you a decent wage, not a lot of money, but a decent wage, to make some art for us. You know, it doesn't pay a lot of money, but it doesn't pay a little.
Here's your internship, and
Yeah.
here's our senior position.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, there's none of that. There's just mostly like we're hiring a person to do one job in the traditional sense of like, let's say, getting hired to being commissioned to make work or a series of works. I'm hiring you to do this one job and then that's it. And then you have to go find someone else to hire you to do this one other job, and that's it. And hopefully, if you're very popular, you can get hired a lot of times, very often, or at least hired a couple of times and given a lot of money. But there's not a lot of room for the people that are like, oh, well, I'm okay at making art, and nothing I do is really that great, which isn't a bad thing, but nothing I do is really that great, but it's not bad. There's not a lot of opportunities for that kind of artist. And so, like you said, it gets competitive because all of these artists all the time are always trying to like one up each other, just hone their craft.
And they do, and they do,
do.
and that's why there's so much competition, and that's why they're so good.
Yeah.
So that's why you personally, you listening to this, probably you feel super depressed right now. Whenever you go online and go on Instagram or go wherever, and you look at all this amazing art online, and you're like,
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be that good.
Yeah.
And the truth is that if that's what you're saying now, it's very possible that you will never be that good. Because, you know, I say this a lot, that people often see the end result, but they don't see the work that goes into something. And that's absolutely true. And especially true in social media when we always put our best foot forward. I like to share processes or processes, whatever the plural of that word is, and you know, some whips online, and just kind of show how something starts off as a blobby mess and eventually develops into something down the road. But when everybody goes to the front page of, let's say, ArtStation, for example, and obviously it's the front page, it's the trending tab.
Yeah, the best of the
Here
best.
is the best of the best today. Guess what? It's going to be all new stuff tomorrow.
Yeah.
It hits you in the ground. It's that cloud over your head again of uncertainty.
Not only is there very, very good artists, but there's a lot of them. And there's a lot of content that those people are putting out. Not every single one of them on a daily basis, but a good amount of them on a daily basis are putting something out somewhere across the world. And it can be like staggering, like, oh, fuck, like, what am I going to do now? But what you don't see, and what Ben said is super accurate. I totally agree with you, because I've said that too a lot of the time. People will ask you, "Oh, how long did that take you?"
14 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, it's such an annoying question to answer, because the honest answer is always hundreds of hours. Like, for me at least, for like most of my sculptures, I will put at minimum 80 hours into them. At minimum, absolute minimum. But you're not even just looking at that 80 hours. You're looking at the thousands of hours behind that, which have led to learning and understanding and making mistakes and remaking the same mistakes and then learning from those mistakes again, and then finally being able to mold or make whatever it is I'm trying to manipulate into the way that I want to make it. And I'm still not where I want to be. I'm still very far away from where I want to be. But what I'm saying is, it's when you buy an expensive, let's say, pot, someone made a pot, a potter made a pot. Sorry, I forgot the word. Saying pot a lot. He made a vessel that you buy. And a lot of people are like, why would someone sell a teacup for $10,000? And they're like, that's just ridiculous. No one should ever buy a teacup for $10,000. That's insanity. But what they're not seeing is that person has had 40 years of experience making pottery. Mm-hmm. You're not buying that teacup by itself. You're buying all of the experience behind it. You're buying this one item, which is a result.
Yeah, is a result and personifies all of that amazing work. I almost compare your question of, like, how long did that take, to, like, a musician, and, like, how long did it take for you to play that song? It's like, what do you mean?
Want?
Exactly the time that I play.
Like right now. Like from when I started to here. That's how long it took.
Yeah. It's like, it took this, like, what do you want what are you looking for out of this? Are you looking for yourself, like, okay, well, it wasn't that much time that he took to do that.
Yeah.
But it's like,
or is it's an annoying question. That took way too much time, and I think I could have done that in less amount of time. And maybe that's true. But it is a super annoying question. And it's a question I think a lot of artists get asked. Just a generic, how long did that take you? Why did you make that? Just all the generic questions.
And it's interesting hearing you say, like, your timeline of, like, how long you put into a sculpture, so that I can compare that to digital and think about, like, how long it would take me to create something digitally compared to how long it would take you to do something traditionally. And I would say it's, like, probably 1/4 of the amount of time that you spend in I would say it's comparable to 1/4 to maybe even 1/8 as much.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Which is crazy to me. That, I mean, it's a tool, and it speeds up the process for you, and it gives me different abilities that you just can't do, which it's a completely different art form.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense that what you would spend, maybe the projects, I'm sure there would be a project, let's say, if you wanted to make something, like, super hardcore awesome, like that bust, like, just, like, gorgeous, like, really put your heart into it. I could totally see you putting, like, 80 something, 100 plus hours into that. Easy. I could see anybody doing that.
For the sculpture that I was referencing earlier by Eris Colacantes, to create something of this, like, level, for me, digitally, I would guess probably anywhere from 50 to 100 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
But I give such a huge range because I cannot sculpt this well, personally. And I'm not, like, embarrassed or anything or ashamed to say that. I think I could with enough time, but if I spent, like, a whole week on it, could I get it to this level? I don't think so. If I wanted to completely replicate this, I could do that confidently in probably, like, 40 hours and be totally fine with that. But if I was to create something like that of my own design, I would say, like, 50 to 100 hours.
Yeah, so, and that makes sense. But, like, it is true. I mean, I don't want to say a lot of the work is taken out for you, because it's totally different medium. Like, it's not, I'm not comparing what I do to what you're
It's not even really sculpting.
I mean, it is. It's definitely sculpting.
It's working with forms, but it's working with three-dimensional forms, but I would not. It's high-resolution 3D modeling.
Yeah, but I would still call it I would call it sculpting, but I would say, for instance, what you have that is different than what I had to do, which I think is just as difficult. In the end, yes, it saves you time, but you had to learn how to use this software, right? So you had to learn the ins and outs, the shortcuts, how to use stuff, how to do exactly what you want to do, and not have like weird errors happen on
And
you.
damn, does everybody know how ass backwards, bass backwards, whatever it is, ZBrush is.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
But now I love it.
well, of course, because you used it so much.
Right.
But like, you had to learn the language, if you will, of ZBrush.
Yeah,
And that probably took a long
is
time.
to get to a point of, I think, like really knowing the software and knowing how things work in it. Like even some old school stuff like that nobody uses any. I don't say nobody, but really, honestly, quotes, nobody uses anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like, I didn't have to do the same thing. While I don't have like a symmetry tool or a capability of applying colors or textures or anything like that.
Or materials even.
Yeah.
On the fly.
Yeah, exactly. I still didn't have to learn how to use this software. So, you did something that I would never have to do in a traditional sense. But then I do things that you would never have to do in a digital sense, which is, make start to finish all of these things with a real object. I have to make it, fire it, glaze it, hang it, put it how I want it to be put, all that sort of thing. And display it how I want it to be displayed. So it's a very different medium, different form of art making. But I would still consider that sculpting in the sense that you still have to make the form. There's no shortcut to making the form or like being able to see how to make forms, which I think is really important.
Okay. So this is transitioning into a good thing, I think, because this is something I've been thinking about quite often. So is art necessary? I think we found that at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah, we moved on. We said yes.
It was on the internet.
It's very obviously necessary.
Yeah, obviously it was on the internet.
Yeah.
So
everything on the internet is true, even things that contradict themselves.
Yeah, well, they're both true in
yeah,
that
exactly.
case.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
So
they must both be true.
I was recently thinking about the fundamentals of specifically for me, like my personal art fundamentals. What are the fundamentals to me? I was like laying in bed awake 2 nights ago till like 3 a.m, not even kidding. I climbed in my bed at like 11:30, laid down. I was like, sweet, going to bed a tiny bit early tonight. Laid down, closed his eyes. I just laid there for like 2 hours thinking about this, and then I casually grab my phone and like type in some notes. So I was thinking about the fundamentals of sculpture and the fundamentals of art. And my art, and maybe just in general, kind of. And I think that a lot of artists glance over what I consider to be the actual true fundamentals of at least my personal art, but also I think more generically art in general. Mm-hmm. And I kind of tried to like hierarchically structure these. And I tried to like classify them into like larger categories. So first I had, I'll open up my notes here so I can remember. So at the top I had story, and the fundamental of story, and a synonym for story here could be why, the question why.
So
like,
concept.
Why anything? Yeah, concept. For your case, your material, mm-hmm. The backstory of whatever it is that you're creating. I was thinking of an example of like, say, a rock. If you're going to, we'll say sculpt, since we're both sculptors, sculpt a rock, you have to think, you can't just say, I'm going to make a rock, and then make a rock. Maybe you can, but it's not going to be nearly as good as if you think about the whys of the rock.
Yeah.
Where is why is it this shape? Why is it this color? Why is it this, like, the minerals, the materials,
the texture,
where is it, like, is it exposed to water, like, all these things mm-hmm. that form this big category of what I am calling the story, like the backstory of the thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a fundamental skill that isn't incredibly hard for people to do, but it's often overlooked, but it is something that you can become extremely good at by practicing it. I mean, like we said, I think last time we were talking about concept artists and how that's a position in and of itself.
Yeah. I mean, with what you're saying there too, of like the why, I think really good art will always have a reason for every little small detail.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, like everything is deliberately done, even if it seems to be at a detriment of the work. Sometimes artists do that just to get across, like you said, the whys, the concepts. I know in my work I do that. So like there's some things wrong with my work where you're like, oh, that's not 100% realistic. And there's very specific reasons as to why I chose to make it that way. It's 100% intentional.
Your Wario doesn't look like a real person.
Yeah, exactly. So like, yeah, it all fits the reason. But like, I think that's a really good point of like that is often overlooked. A lot of people, I think, especially students, will be like, oh, I just want to make a thing and I want to make it look good. But they don't ask themselves. And I think I mentioned this earlier of like, why are you doing all this stuff? Why? Like you said, like, you know, you have to think about every variable in which this thing is going to interact with to really give it a true meaning or a true sense of what it is, which is important.
So that's what I was like giving the like I was trying to like classify them somewhat, and the next one down I had was sight. So I was just like doing a generic sight, which and I think you can ask any artist this, and they'll say that 90% or whatever large percentage of art is like actually just seeing a thing for what it truly is.
Yeah.
And especially for sculptural 3D forms and all these things, like just seeing that. And also under sight, I had the idea of mental library, which is just kind of your personal understanding of you know, all these visual things that you have seen and now understand more, and kind of having your own personal mental library. Like previously we were talking about an ant, and like if you were to draw an ant, would you actually understand what the ant looked like? Would you connect the legs all in the right place, like just from memory?
Yeah, the mandibles and all that sort of thing. Yeah, and no, the answer would be no. No one, very few people would be able to do that. But like we talked about last time, everyone has seen an ant. Everyone's familiar with an ant. It's just like no one's really studied the ant.
You've seen an ant, but have you like actually looked at it and tried to, you know, like you said, study and convert it to memory?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the biggest. I think that is the biggest thing. To me, that would be the biggest thing for a visual sculptor.
I agree.
And even I think photographers, painters, is the capability to see. You have to be able to see. And some people might like think like, oh, no, you're being all. Ooh. Yeah, I'm not. I literally mean what I'm saying. Yeah, I literally mean what I'm trying to say to you, which is you need to train yourself to be able to see correctly, and there is no other way around it except from experience. Like you will never be able to know what a human form looks like until you make a human form, and you're not going to get it right the first time.
And I've sculpted a lot of human characters, and I still suck at it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I've sculpted a lot of human people, and I still suck at it too. It's just a lot of seeing, and then a lot of learning, and a lot of breaking old ideas in your mind that you think look right at the time, but when you go back and you're like, oh, wait, no, the cheekbones on females, you know, they are a little bit, you know, more highlighted than men's, and they do, like, go back in a straighter fashion or whatever, and yeah, just whatever it is, like the head shape.
The temporal ridge of a female is a little bit different than a male.
Yeah, exactly. And like, what is it that makes a man masculine and a female feminine? And you know, how do you
just Google Ben DeAngelis? Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead and do a little plug. No, just kidding. While you do know these things inherently, like you can look at a sculpture of a human and be like, oh, that's bad, and you know that immediately,
right?
Yeah, but you don't understand how a human form, and which is extremely complex, horribly complex. Even the human hand is like tremendously annoying to make, but you don't really understand why it is that it's wrong until you really learn how to see correctly. And that goes with anything: humans, animals, tables, chairs. It doesn't matter what you're trying to make.
Absolutely, absolutely. So those were the first two that I had that I thought were like pretty good generic categories. I was like happy with those. I was like, those are very generic and no one can argue with these. They're too generic.
Yeah.
So then next down, I had form. So story, which is your why, start with why. Famous talk by what's his name? Simon Sinek. Sorry. So start with why. Simon Sinek. Go ahead, give it a goog. It's worth your time. So why?
Sight.
Vision. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And then form. So which I think encompasses a lot.
Yeah.
Like your primary, secondary, high-res details, whatever, silhouette, all these things that I encompassed under that. So I was just kind of trying to give myself these, I was trying to, distill what I thought the true fundamentals of, my personal art form are. Because I spent some time, looking up, I was like, what are the fundamentals? What do people consider the fundamentals of sculpture? And the only real one or two that I could gather that people would ever mention would be form, which is the one I just mentioned, and kind of encompassing all those ideas of shape, primary, high-res details, whatever it is. And then the only other one I could see people mention would be your why, your story, your reason, for doing everything. And then it would always be texture, material, and all. I was like, I still consider that under form in a way. I want some concrete fundamentals, and that's where I was like, nobody ever talks about sight. No one ever talks about.
I think sight could be rolled into form though too, in certain instances. So
it's something completely separate from the actual act of doing the thing though, where it's your personal experience and knowledge of things and ability to do it, and that's why I personally consider it so different, whereas form is your ability to take, which is why I have it listed below sight, which is it's because it's your ability to take your sight and your ability to see a thing and then create it.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah, I could see that for sure. I think a lot of this can be used back, obviously, into the traditional sense, just any 3D anything, and also probably 2D in a lot of instances. But for me as a potter, it's one of the things that I do as a ceramic artist, make pottery, and sitting on the wheel, you start off with a lump of clay, right? And you have to learn how to throw, and you have to learn how to, just do the technique to make a thing and have a thing at the end of it. But also, very importantly, after you gather the basic skills of, okay, this is how you pull a cylinder, and this is how you pull the walls evenly, and all the basic technical stuff. At the end, you have, you'll just have a cylinder if you just learn how to do it. Just a straight, boring-ass cylinder. How
do you pull the walls evenly, Daryl? Is it just locking your muscles in place and pulling up?
Kind of. So a lot of it is locking one of your arms. Definitely the one that your right arm, if it's going in a counterclockwise direction.
You mean locking it on your leg or something?
Yeah, I lock it actually on the inside of my hip bone.
Okay.
So I lock my elbow on the inside of my hip, and you apply a lot of pressure at the bottom. And I have my left hand and right hand. It's important to have both your hands touching, connected at all times. When you can. When you're pulling larger forms, you obviously can't have them touching if it's 12 inches.
Then you use the side of your face.
Yeah, then
you just steady.
Yeah, exactly. No, but you want to have both your hands connected. You apply a lot of pressure at the bottom, and this is another thing. We said sight, but when it comes to pottery, a lot in clay and throwing, it's a lot of feel. I can't teach you how to feel the clay, but once you do it enough, you'll get it. You'll start to understand. You communicate with the clay through your hands, through touching it, and you understand what the clay wants to do, what it doesn't want to do, and you can understand how to make it do what you want to do. You can throw completely, I throw a lot of the times closing my eyes. A lot of times when I make my pools, I close my eyes because I don't need to see the pool. The act of seeing the pool actually can get my way sometimes. I need to understand what's happening.
Overcorrect for something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I need to feel what's really going on. I need to understand how the clay is acting as I'm applying force to it and as it's going through my fingers and stuff like that.
So the doing of the actual thing, the actual muscle memory and practice and all of that is a fundamental.
Yeah, it's a fundamental. But another fundamental, if you ever want to sell any of your work, is being able to make interesting forms or make forms that look good. And you have to know what looks good and why does it look good? Well, I don't know. What really looks good to you, other people might fucking hate. And then we're getting into the concept of aesthetic qualities in which it's aesthetic value. But that's really important to be able to see a form and say, well, why does it do that? does it feel heavy? Does the form feel heavy in the sense that you look at it and it looks heavy? It
Dude,
doesn't
I'm
have
coming
to
in
pick
with my left hook. That's my right hand. My left hook, like for the finisher, because the fourth one I had listed at the bottom is because I said there were 4. I think I said that. The doing of the thing, pretty much that. What I generalized it as was time. Because I think it's the fundamental that no one fucking tells you about.
Yeah, no one wants
ever.
to admit.
Yeah, no one.
They all just have to be like, I was born this way.
Yeah, I've been doing it since I was 5, so I can't really remember ever struggling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, but at the bottom, as somewhat the least important of the fundamentals, but in all actuality, I think the most important they're all important. I don't know if you can rank one over another. But just time spent doing the thing. And it's so often overlooked in the early stages, especially when a lot of the questions are stuff like, how long did that take you? It's like, well, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or how did you do that? Well,
would you really understand?
Yeah, you'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And time is the solution to figuring out all of these things, I would say. So I think you can make a case that like form, like you said, or the why, and the what was the other one? Sight, and then all of these things do come with time. And some people will argue like, no. Like, you either have it or you don't have it. When it comes to pottery, some people would say, you can either feel it or you can't. I cannot teach you how to feel the clay. I simply can't.
Unless you have a ghost husband.
Yeah, unless you have a ghost husband.
Guiding your hand.
Yeah, exactly. But some really famous photographers will say, I can't teach you how to see a frame. I just know. I don't know. And they'll say, you can make it better. You can harness that ability. You can sharpen it. But you have to have it in the beginning. Otherwise, you cannot be a good photographer. And I don't know how true that is. I don't know how honest that is.
I mean, some people are better than others, and
yeah.
You can cultivate your skills however you see fit.
Yeah, but I think if you really wanted to make a serious effort, I think the time is what's gonna bear the fruit at the end. Not necessarily having the natural inclination or whatever, but the time you put into it will give you the ability to see the form. Will give you the ability to learn how
right.
to make the thing that you're trying to make. It'll give you the ability to learn how to think correctly, like you said with the whys. It'll give you the amount of time that you need to really understand what questions do I need to be asking in order for this, what I want to say, to come off in the most effective manner possible.
Boom, we did it. The fundamentals of art, they're all there.
All of them. No Googling.
No Googling.
Wikipedia.
We did it. No, we know it all.
Yeah.
How are we not better artists?
I don't know.
So I actually had a really, what I think is funny idea for a video that I wanted to make. And I wanted to call it How to Become the Best Artist in the World, essentially.
Yeah.
And what it would be is the video would start, and I would just be talking to the camera and say, all right, well, this is what I want you to do. I want you to start practicing your art right now, and go ahead and pause the video and unpause it in 1 year.
Yeah.
and then they would unpause it, and I'd be like, "Hey, welcome back. It's been a year since you started your art journey. Congratulations. Go ahead and throw yourself a little party. Hopefully, you guys didn't skip ahead. That would be obviously cheating.
Yeah.
But keep doing what you're doing, and just go ahead and pause the video and unpause it in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. That's
and
the
then
thing.
just keep essentially leading people doing that forever.
There's this thing called the Impostor Syndrome. You ever heard of it?
Maybe.
We had NKU had a visiting artist come along the other day. His name was David McDonald. Very prestigious potter. Not just he's always made pots, but he's also made a lot of very conceptual work through the pot making. He came in. He's from Syracuse, New York. He got a job at Syracuse, New York, as a professor teaching ceramics, and he said, what would wake him up in the middle of the night was this nightmare.
Oh, gosh.
This nightmare that he'd get called into the dean's office, and the dean would say, someone would come into his classroom when he was teaching and say, Mr. McDonald, the dean needs to see you right away. Stop class. You need to go talk to him. And he said, I'd go to see the dean. The dean would invite me in, tell me to close the door. It's like, and when they tell you to close the door, it's not going to be good. It's not close the door so we can give you a big check. But he'd close the door and sit down and he'd say, you know, Mr. McDonald, we figured out finally that you have no idea what you're doing.
We've solved the art riddle.
Yeah, and he was like, I don't, and he's like, and we don't understand how it is that you've gotten away with not knowing what you're doing for all these years.
You fooled us.
Yeah, he's like, but now we have definitive proof that we know that you know or don't know what that you're
amazing.
doing. He's like, and we're gonna have to let you go. He's like, and that never happened. I retired at the age of whatever. I think he's 70 something.
They never caught on.
Yeah, he's like, and they never figured it out. I never disappointed a student or like didn't know how to help out a student. And he's like, and that was my biggest worry. And the thing is like that's a common thing in a lot of fields, and it's just very common in people that are very good at what they do. And it's called the Impostor Syndrome. So what happens is you're like, let's say you get recognition or praise for something you did. Let's say that you made a really cool sculpture, and people are like, that's awesome. But in your mind, you're like, oh man, that was a fluke. That was a one-time thing. I'm never gonna be able to do that again. How did I do that in the first place? And so you try really, really hard because you're like, man, I'm going to let all these people down because they don't know that I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
Which I know that, but they don't know that. They see all this like success, but I really don't know. So I'm just going to keep learning so I can know and know and know. And then you keep learning and it leads to more success because you're dedicating all that time because you're so worried about not knowing. But you get more success because really you can't see that you are doing good work.
I think that almost classifies like every artist ever.
Yeah.
I have heard of the Imposter Syndrome now that you describe it to me. But yeah, it's almost, I mean, not to say like that my art is great or anything, and obviously now I do sound like an imposter if any of my art has ever been good or recognized in any way. And I have had people say like, oh, that's really cool, or like you said, oh, that the thing that I just showed you before we started recording, you're like, oh, that looks cool, man. And
yeah,
like in my head, I'm
really
like,
yes,
I don't know. I need to keep working on it for a very long time.
Yeah.
I plan on working on it for the rest of the month, actually. Essentially, like, I don't know. I feel like that's almost everyone.
Yeah, I'm the same way. If someone says, oh, that's a nice sculpture, I'm like, I was talking to somebody, and she was asking me, like, you know, if somebody compliments you, what do you feel from that? And I was just like, well,
absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I
feel dead inside.
I was just like I believe what I said was I believe they believe it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But I don't believe it myself because you say it's good. It does not instill like, oh, this is good now. Like,
also, I am a very good liar. Like, hey, what do you think of this? It looks great.
Yeah. Exactly.
I am the best
Fantastic.
liar.
Are you been?
I'm a human.
Have you been lying this whole time?
Probably a little.
Probably a little. But yeah, no.
I can't keep track of all of the lies.
They just build up, you know?
until they overflow and someone says, wait.
Someone, and then I have to leave town again and move to a new state.
Right. Pack up and move away. That's not bourbon in that glass.
Yeah. This has been water.
This whole time. Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a real thing. It's like, it goes back to that uncertainty cloud, which is, you don't know. You have no idea if your work's good. I don't know if my work's good. Sure, some people could love it, but that, to me, my work is always 10 notches below where I want it to be. Always. I think it always will be, too.
And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
I don't think so either.
I am a huge, like, proponent of, like, self-teaching and always trying to improve yourself and learn new things. I would say, like, obsessed with trying to, like, study and learn as much as I possibly can. Literally about everything. Like, today, I was just, like, looking up some U.S. history facts because in high school, I hated history. I don't know why, I just hated history. Yeah. And now I'm like, let's, like, look back through. And I was like, I want to see the timeline of the U.S. presidents. I was like, I don't know why. I was just, like, eating some chicken, and I was, like, looking up the timeline of the U.S. presidents. And I'm like, interesting.
Yeah. If someone were able to see into your life right then, they'd be like, this guy's lost his mind.
If anybody looked through my Google search history, everyone would probably conclude that I'm a serial killer.
Yeah. I have the same feeling. Especially when I'm trying to make sculptures, and I'm like, Like
Severed
female,
head.
yeah, female figure, upset, like female form.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
no, I
just
get like the same stuff. Like,
I just need to know how the face moves when you frown. Like,
very upset, naked woman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Under 200 pounds. Like, what? This is very specific.
It's getting crazily specific.
Yeah.
Sitting cross-legged on a couch. Has to be a couch.
Black couch.
Yeah, exactly.
Red and black.
Yeah. I need the stripes. It has to be right.
Horizontal.
But, like, I'm a big proponent of that, too, because as soon as you get in that mindset of, like, I did it, and you're immediately stagnating, you're immediately falling behind. And I think you can be proud of your work and at the same time recognize the issues with it. I think you can be very critical of your work and separate yourself, like, from it, but at the same time put yourself back in with it and be like, you know what, this is a big personal accomplishment. For the amount of time that I've put into it and for the amount of time that I've been doing this, I should be proud of myself. And let's say, like, you want to be the best. Well, I think we could have a whole another episode on what it means to be the best and if that even is an existent thing. But
find out next time on... Insert podcast name here later.
Yeah. But, like, it's a never-ending thing, and as soon as you say, like, oh, that's good, like, I'm just gonna recreate the same awesome thing, you know, to me 100 times, then people are passing you. You're starting to fall behind, because if you do that, you have to know that there's not every other person out there, but all of the serious artists are saying, no, that's not good enough. This is why, and this is how I'm going to do it better next time. Mm-hmm. And, like, this is where I failed in this time. Or maybe they did make something that they think is perfect, but they say, you know what, but next time I want to make this bigger thing, or this harder thing, or this thing that I've never been able to really realize in the right way. And, like, that's what you need to keep growing. You need to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, foreign things that you haven't experienced before or tried before. And all of that is just the process of learning and how to learn. And as an artist, if you're trying to be a serious artist, you need to keep learning.
Yeah, I think that's a great note to kind of end things off on for this episode. And I don't know, we don't know how we're gonna end these things in the future. We'll find a better way to do it other than just saying
it's over.
Yeah, see you guys. Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Right. So I had an idea of one thing that we could do was at the end of an episode we could kind of recommend an artist that one or both of us kind of know about that we follow. But I think maybe a good one is maybe the one that I mentioned earlier in the episode, the sculpture that I'm holding by Eris Colocantes. I'll put his name and a link to his stuff in the show notes for anybody interested in that. I believe he's a Greek sculptor artist, sculptor, I think is what those are called.
What do we call a sculpture artist?
What am I again?
No, I'm a drawer.
Yeah, drawer.
You ever notice that? There's no good word for someone who draws.
Yeah.
I'm a drawer.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
I just call them pencil boys.
Pencil boys. You call them illustrators, I guess. Sounds a little bit better. But still, I don't know. But yeah, if I were to recommend an artist, her name's Jee Eun Lee. But I'll spell it out for you. It's Jee space EUN space LEE. She is a South Korean artist. She is actually a professor at NKU. But she is phenomenal sculptor / ceramic
the university that you go to.
Yeah.
Northern Kentucky University.
The university which I attend. But she is an amazing artist. Phenomenal. And if you're into traditional ceramic stuff...
She's also super hot.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not going to say
I
that.
have no idea
No,
who she is.
No. She is my professor, so I'm not going to say it. Ben is alone on that one.
Daryl's also, like, getting married.
Yeah, that's true. I am getting married. Yeah, man. Life's going by.
He's got 4 kids on the way.
Yeah, all at once. From the same woman. It's really, modern science is a miracle.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out Jee Eun Lee. She's incredible ceramic artist. And also just she's done a lot of stuff that isn't ceramic as well. So
awesome, man. Well, I think that's where we'll cut it. And I guess we'll talk to you guys in the next recording.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.